Hello everyone. Hope you can hear me, see me, all that jazz. This is yet another Ask Me Anything session. And as I wrote in a comment, I haven't prepared anything. This is all about answering your questions. Scott was supposed to be with us today, but he couldn't make it. He's on the way to the airport and delayed. Anyway, so it's me and only me and you, and ask anything you want. That's the goal, and I reserve the right to say I have no idea. And before we start with your questions, just type them fast. First come, first served. We have a new member of the channel, Nati. Nati, this is so amazing. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. So now, let's go to your questions. Gateway API replacements, go. First of all, I'm always confused what is API gateway and what is gateway API. The naming is just horrible. I'm assuming you're referring to the one from Kubernetes, I think. Anyway, I will assume that. What do you mean by gateway API replacements? Okay. So, and I see from Lovely, Nginx, Ingress I meant. Okay, cool, yes. I disappeared. Cool. Here I am back. So here it goes. Nginx is a mess. It's officially closed. Now, for anyone following what's happening with the Ingress Nginx or Nginx Ingress, again, there are two Nginx Ingresses. The one that was in SIG Kubernetes. The repository is not maintained anymore. It is officially closed. It's not a surprise because there was only a handful of occasional maintainers. The repo hasn't been well maintained for years now, and the only thing that really happened is that now it's official, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I think I heard the figure that 70% of Kubernetes clusters are using Ingress Nginx or Nginx Ingress. And that means that significant percentage are now going to be affected. There are two options here. One is to switch to a different Ingress, right? That could be the other Nginx. There is an open source version managed by and maintained by F5, and there is a plethora of other Ingresses. And that could be okay if you're not really doing anything special with Ingress, if you just define the host and say go. Now, if you did anything else than that, you probably ended up having right now in your Ingress definitions a bunch of annotations. And I think that I would not recommend going to any other Ingress, including the other Nginx Ingress, the one from F5, simply because the way I see it, most people did not adopt Gateway API because it takes work to transition from Ingress to Gateway API. But now that all of you using Nginx Ingress need to put an effort to switch anyways, I think that this is the perfect moment for anybody using Ingress Nginx or Nginx Ingress to go to Gateway API. There is a bunch of options, including Nginx from F5, right? But my logic now is, okay, so if you have to put an effort, if it's not going to be drop-in replacement to whatever you might choose, this is a perfect opportunity to go to Gateway API. And I hope that most people will do that, right? Because it's something that you should do sooner or later anyway. It wasn't mature enough. And some solutions are still not mature enough. Some are. There is a bunch of options over there. And Gateway API spec is simply infinitely better than Ingress, right? Ingress was a disaster from the very beginning. That's why we ended up having a bunch of random annotations, and every Ingress implementation has different annotations. It's a mess. So I strongly recommend, if you're using Ingress Nginx, switch to Gateway API, choose any of those. And the good news is that you cannot make a terribly wrong choice. Unlike with Ingress, right? If you make a mistake and say, oh, I don't want to use this Ingress, I want to go to that Ingress, you will have to rewrite a bunch of annotations. With Gateway API, it's a spec that is much more extensive. You might easily end up not having to do anything extra or special outside of the spec itself. So you should be able in the future to seamlessly change the Gateway API provider, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, just do that. Let's see why am okay, here I am back. I don't know, something's wrong with the stream today. Anyway, the question is, any out-of-the-box idea from KubeCon? I haven't seen anything special. I have the impression that the companies behind CNCF project are slow projects. And when I say behind CNCF projects, I mean companies that are actively maintaining CNCF projects are slowly disappearing. Which is a sad thing, because if companies that are paying people to maintain those projects are disappearing and being replaced by other types of companies who are unlikely to maintain those projects, that means that projects might start disappearing soon as well, as we are just witnessing with Nginx, right? Because the problem with Nginx is that nobody has a commercial interest in Nginx, and then nobody wants to pay full-time maintainers, and then projects die slowly. And I feel that might be happening with an increased number of CNCF projects. I think that business side of it is not going very well. That's my feeling from this KubeCon and the previous ones. I haven't seen anything revolutionary new. I think that everybody is trying to focus on AI, because now, ignoring the discussion whether AI is a good thing or a bad thing, the thing with AI is that all those startups, they cannot raise next round of investment unless they're profitable, and none of them is. So they need to raise it on idea, and anything that is not AI right now is not getting finances, is not getting money. So everybody's pivoting towards AI. Unfortunately, my guess is that everybody in that area is completely confused and inexperienced with it. So I haven't seen many, if any, good solutions. The only thing AI related that is going pretty well, that's how do we run stuff? How do we run models? How do we run inference? How do we run agents up to a point? Because that's strictly Kubernetes domain, right? The rest of ideas are mostly, hey, I have this project, this product, this service, whatever it is, and I'm going to enhance it with AI, but I don't really know what to do. So I haven't seen much in that area, and most of the other things are not innovative anymore. And I feel that that's to be expected, to be honest, because Kubernetes entered the mature phase, right? And that means that we are not going... That's a good thing for us as users, because that means that it's not a child anymore. We should, and we are using it in production. It's serious. Most of the problems are solved or about to be solved, and not many new ideas are coming along, right? And that happens with almost every area. Like, we don't get every month a new startup, a new idea about VMs or hyperscalers or whatever we had in the past. That's normal, like Linux, right? Linux is extremely mature. We don't get completely new distribution every day, at least not a serious one, and that's okay because it's stable. It's good. It's serious. But if you're looking at KubeCon from that perspective, from, hey, I'm going there to get completely new ideas, to hear something that was never thought of before, something that somebody figured out and it's completely new. I don't think that that's happening. The last big thing was probably BPF. I might be missing something, but I feel that KubeCons are not about innovations anymore, are about making what we figured out so far really, truly work in production, which is in a way boring, but good news, I would say. Okay, let's see what else. I from disappearing. There we go. I wonder if you can elaborate how would you approach a need for certain deployments using a VPN connection, like Proton VPN. This is specifically about talking to outside world, not between pods clusters. Oh man, Moenus, I'm not sure I understand. Let me read it again. Wonder if you can elaborate how would you approach the need for certain deployments using a VPN connection. So you mean kind of from inside and this is specifically about talking to outside world, not between pods clusters. So you mean how do you talk from a pod to something outside that cluster, right? And how to make it secure. Now, depends on whether that something is under your control or outside. If it's your control, it's slightly easier because most service meshes now support multi-cluster, what's or not. You can basically connect it through network and through service mesh. For outside world, I don't have much experience, to be honest. I mean, I do have experience, but I haven't tried very, very hard to make it anything beyond what it is. Just kind of, okay, you need to talk to, I don't know, Blue Sky API, just talk to it over HTTPS. So if it's for external communication from inside your cluster to something that is outside your control, unfortunately, I don't have much information to give there, if that's what you're asking. But please kind of clarify more. I might be able to come up with something else, I guess. Anybody else? You're very quiet. Everybody is very quiet today. So type your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And while you're typing on a subject of, I'm thinking I will probably I did it a long time ago. I will probably publish something around cluster API and the Nginx situation and what to do and how in more detail. I'm not sure yet, but that's one of the many ideas I have in my head. Okay, from Lowry 3000, people look at me like I'm a weirdo when I say I need to run on-prem Kubernetes, but for regulatory reasons I have to. So what do I run? Talos looks nice. So first of all, you're not a weirdo when you run on-prem. I unfortunately don't have very extensive experience on-prem myself. Most of what I do is on cloud. But yeah, with my limited experience, Talos is really good and would probably be my choice if I would be have serious on-prem need or situation or setup. Now that is true in case, assuming based on your question, inferring somehow that you're referring to running it kind of for free, right? Now there are of course commercial options, which if you can afford and if you have big setup are pretty good. But if it's free, yeah, I would go with Talos. Talos is very, very, very promising, right? It kind of shaked it a bit with immutability and quite a few concepts. So I like Talos. But again, I'm not an expert in on-prem. So Scott, who will hopefully be here next week, he runs on-prem much, much more than I do. From Amuenus. From Amuenus, yes, you pretty much got it. I was thinking maybe something with OpenVPN is possible. Some VPN providers support it. I'm trying to stay away from VPNs, to be honest. Kind of like consider them a nightmare, evil. So I leave that part to others. So I'm not very experienced, to be honest, with anything VPN related, except from being in the past VPN user and hated myself. Sorry, man. Okay, I don't know what's happening whenever I put somebody's comment. Anyways, from Till in Desert, thoughts on NA10. It never grew on me, to be honest. I feel that NA10 is like an evolution of low-code, no-code idea, and now sprinkled with sprinkled with AI. But it's essentially low-code, no-code idea, right? And I feel it makes perfect sense for somebody who is not an engineer, right? Like if you're HR, marketing, hey, you want to connect this to calendar and then from calendar get this and then send email and what's not. It's working well, probably. I haven't used it much. It simply does not fit in my idea of how those things should be for me. I'm not saying it's not useful for anybody. It certainly is. It's just that I don't have a good experience with drag and drop in any form of way, including N10. I think that they're very good to start and then produce much more pain later, right? I like my code. I understand it. I understand it better than N10. So I'm not using it myself. And I'm not sure that I would recommend it to software engineers, especially now that it's becoming easier and easier to create your own agents. Like if you want something very simple, right? Very simple, not necessarily great, but very simple, that is N10-like in terms that there are different agents in your system and you want to connect them, then probably I would go for K-agent. Again, I'm not very fond of it, but it's that level of simplicity without necessarily drag and dropping things, right? So maybe try K-agent, really. I personally never fell in love with N10, so I'm not that experienced with it. It's one of the things that I discarded a couple of times. I just remembered that we have a sponsor, so I should probably put it on a screen for a minute. There we go. So octopus.com sponsored this video. Oh, let me share my screen. There we go. I'm completely unprepared. Apologies to everybody for that. Where is it? Here. Let me put it on the screen. There we go. Enterprise support for Argo. So Octopus, they do everything Argo related, right? Quite a few folks in Octopus are Argo maintainers. They know what they're doing. They're sponsoring this channel, this stream to be more specific. So if you need anything related to Argo, I already mentioned a couple of times their trainings, tutorials, what's not. I forgot to put it on a screen. Here we go. Now it's on a screen. So if you need anything related to Argo, if you want support for Argo, and when I say Argo, I don't mean only Argo CD, Argo events, Argo workflows, and whatever else is missing there, check them out, right? So if you need support, if you need expertise, if you need the professional services, anything you need for Argo, check them out. And let me know what you think, really. They know what they're doing. Let's put it that way, right? So you're in good hands. Thank you so much for sponsoring Octopus. And now let's go back to where we were. Let me just remove this and this. Cool. Okay, now let's see more of your questions. There we go. Did you get a chance to look into SOPs as an alternative to Teller? It is not the same, but allows you to store secrets in Git as an encrypted script, and you decrypt it using PGP key. I used SOPs in the past, but not as for a similar function as Teller. Teller is. I'm still using Teller, to be honest. I think it works for me, and I will continue using probably until I see real alternative to Teller, because SOPs is kind of, I feel it's for different use cases. Or until Teller just stops working, right? I haven't found an alternative for that. And when I say alternative for that, my workflow with Teller is I start a terminal session in a directory of a project where I work. The first thing I execute is eval and then Teller sh. That brings me all the secrets I need as environment variables, and then I go and I do my stuff on my laptop or desktop computer, right? That's my usage of Teller. Other people might have different usages, and SOPs seems too cumbersome for that. I might switch to it. if Teller stops working for me, but right now it still works. And it's easy, no fuss, and I prefer, to be honest, I had different opinion in the past, but I prefer to keep my secrets not in Git, but to keep them in a secret store, right? I use Google Secrets. You can use anything you like. Simply I know it's there, it's safe, it's all fine. I can access it any way I like, and so on and so forth. Especially since I'm not sure that I want to have one Git repo for secrets, so that I can use that Git repo in the Git repo where I am, and so on and so forth. SOPs feels too complicated and too rough for that, right? Now, if is like using secrets from your applications, that's a different story, right? But even in that case, I'm not very fond of SOPs. For my applications, my preference is for external secrets operator, or ESO. Especially since that happened a while ago, since they added the option to push the secrets as well. So if I generate some secret, I can push it to my secret store. If I need a secret, I pull it from the secret store. Now, this might not work for other people, because I prefer to keep secrets in a secret store, not in a Git repo or anything like that, or etcd or what's not. So I'm not using it, and I'm not sure that I will. Another thing, I almost forgot. Another big reasons why I never. This is now outside of the usage like Teller-like, but more for my applications, like things running in Kubernetes cluster. I never liked SOPs because it never got a good Kubernetes operator. There were some attempts that I felt did not work really. And it's so I simply like defining what I need, including how to fetch secrets and where to fetch them as Kubernetes resources. And SOPs never got there. If you're a Flux user, then it's kind of transparent for you and it's okay. But still, for applications here, so I'm still using Teller for everything local. Okay. What are your takes on Helm 4? I haven't tried it, to be honest, so I'm not even 100% sure what's in it. What I was really looking forward to was the rumors, let's say, that Helm 4 will support other languages other than Go templating. That would be huge for me, right? It would be absolutely amazing. That's what I was looking forward to, because I recognized Helm as a de facto standard for third-party apps, and I keep using it. And decently good packaging mechanism, right? How do I package all that stuff and put it to an OCI registry? Helm, good for that. Go templating is simply not my cup of tea. I think it's horrible. And I wanted to give Helm another try because I abandoned it. When I say abandon, I mean for my applications, not for third parties. For third parties, you cannot avoid Helm. So I thought to revisit it, and then I heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that support for other languages is not in version 4, and that broke all my hopes, right? So nothing against Helm as a packaging mechanism, simply Go templating, not my cup of tea. I cannot stand it. I think it's the worst possible choice anybody could have ever made as a templating engine for something that takes data as input and produces data as output, right? Because Go templating is a free text templating engine, right? Completely independently, nothing to do with Helm. So basically it allows you to template text, right? But we are not dealing with text, we are dealing with data. Data in, data out. That's what Helm does. That's Kubernetes manifests basically are data in JSON format or YAML format. And both JSON and YAML are data formats. So I'm not touching it until until they get back to the previous idea, unless I missed it, that they will support other languages. And if they do, or templates or whatever, it should be pluggable. When that happens, I will go back to Helm. And I know that I'm one in a very big minority on that one. I know that many people like Helm, but I'm sorry. I'm on the other side. I'm Helm. I'm very negative towards Helm. Okay, so what else can I be negative on or answer, depending on how you look at it? If there is anybody with any question, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer it. And if not, I'll give you a few minutes. If not, we can close early. That's fine as well. Or doesn't have to be a question. Let me know what you're working on, or if I can take a look at it. I'm always curious. Okay, so here's another one. Is Istio currently best service mesh? What is your opinion? I would say so, yes, because really the two major candidates there, right? There are many smaller service meshes, but they're unreliable. They're far from being ready. The big guy, the elephants in the room are Linkerd and Istio. I was Linkerd user in the past, and I reject to use it anymore because unless something recently changed, because I'm not even following it anymore, the whole sticking to the idea of sidecar containers does not compute in my head. I think that what Istio and everybody else is doing right now, getting rid of sidecar containers, is a good idea. That's where we should be going. So there were two, and in my head there is only one now. So that's Istio really. So yeah, I would say it's. I cannot say. I don't want to say it's the best. I would say that's my choice today. Yes. Okay. On the Eros Merc, what I cannot pronounce. Anyway, how do you evaluate DevOps candidates in the AI era? I think it's the same. I mean, I can tell you how I would evaluate. I cannot say how others are evaluating, right? And I think it's the same, and that's experience, right? Because there is a huge difference in what you will get with AI if intent is written by somebody without and somebody with experience, right? Because I don't think that we are anywhere close to doing serious work in an unsupervised mode, or what some people would call one shot, right? Like, hey, do this, and then he's doing it, and it's done, and you deploy to production, right? I don't believe that we are there. I don't know when we will get there, whether ever we will get there, but right now, for any serious work, a person needs to be in the driving seat, right? Doesn't matter whether we're talking about operations, whether we're talking about code, whether we're talking about anything else. So I am driving AI. AI is not doing the whole work. I'm approving, I'm declining something, I'm redirecting it, I'm telling it when it's stupid, I'm telling it when it's doing well, and so on and so forth, right? So it's a tool for me. It's not autonomous today, at least not for serious work. And as such, it's similar like saying, how do you evaluate car drivers, right? Well, cars do a lot of things. A lot of things they do and do it well. But there is a huge difference in experienced driver and inexperienced driver, right? Experienced driver is going to get to the destination faster, safer, what's not. I think it's the same thing with AI. So how I evaluate people? Experience. That's how I do it, right? Kind of, you need to know what you're doing to be able to instruct AI, redirect AI, correct AI, and so on and so forth, right? AI is just a tool, that at least today. Okay, from Lori, last week you mentioned CKAD wasn't a great way to getting hired. So what would you recommend for people just starting or wanting to break into our world? No, I might have been, first of all, last week I was in Atlanta, so probably the week before that. So I do think that it's probably a great way to getting hired if you are just starting, right? Because when you're starting, you have no experience, right? You cannot say, oh, look at it, I did this in this company, I did that in this company, I worked in this project, I managed this, I did that. You cannot brag about it, you cannot show your experience, right? So if a company is hiring somebody who is just starting, juniors, let's say, then there is a number of candidates with, let's say, university diploma, and what distinguishes you from them is having CKA or whichever certificates you do, right? Because that's your bonus on top of education that gives you a plus if you don't have experience, right? Now, what I was probably saying, because I don't remember, I'm old, two weeks ago, I don't remember what I said, but what I guess that I was saying or wanted to say is that once you get experience, then those certifications don't mean much or don't mean anything, right? Like I've been in this industry for, I don't know, 30 years, more than 30 years, 30 something years, right? If I would go to an interview and somebody would say, hey, which certificates you have, I would leave, right? Because that's not a fit. I have real experience to show, or I hope I do, right? Everybody is delusional about themselves. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a good thing, certificates, until you get experience. Once you get experience working on real projects in real companies, then those certificates don't mean anymore, right? It's a way how you can pass through the door, and after that you don't need it anymore. So if you're just starting, get certificates. I would still argue that I would prefer that you contribute to open source projects, because that's better. That's some experience, and I feel that in many companies that's more valued, not in all, but in those where I would work. If you tell me, hey, I have those 3 certifications, no experience, and somebody else comes and says, I do not yet have experience, but I've been contributing to those projects instead of certifications, then yeah, I would hire the other guy or a girl. Nevertheless, no experience, certification is good. Okay, next one. I cannot pronounce Totora. Any points to consider with migrating from Pulumi to Crossplane? We are about to start a migration project. Oh man, I don't have any special advice, to be honest, simply because you can do anything in Pulumi. There is an infinite ways how you can define something. You just need to rewrite it. And I'm sorry. Now, it's very different also at the same time. The only advice, actually, okay, so here's one point that I would stress very strongly, and that's, do not try to translate Pulumi to Crossplane as is, right? Do not try to replicate exactly the same behavior, because then you would be missing the point of Crossplane. Focus on, think of, when you start working with Crossplane, think that you are a service provider. That's what you're becoming, right? You're designing services that might be consumed by others, or you, right? Same way as AWS is designing services that you consume, right? So you're becoming a service provider. Think about how can I create a meaningful service? What is a meaningful service, right? What is reusable service that will satisfy the needs of 80% of my customers, and your customers being the company, right? And so on and so forth. So try to rewire your brain in that way, that you're not managing infrastructure or whatever you're doing. No, you're creating services, right? That's what XRDs are all about. That's the only thing that I can come up with. Okay, so from Luther, how do you expect the Ingress Nginx retirement will shape Kubernetes networking ecosystem? Do you think the steering committee wanted to force community innovation to Gateway API? So let me answer the second question first. Do you think the steering committee wanted to force community innovation to Gateway API? No. I mean, I cannot guarantee, but I don't have the feeling that's the case. the situation is relatively simple. Projects have maintainers, and sometimes those maintainers are literally volunteers. Kind of, this is what they do on weekends. And that is not the way how you can have a healthy project, right? The way how to have a healthy open source project is to have dedicated maintainers. Kind of, you have 1 or 2 or 10 people who are dedicated 100% to that project, right? And then you have contributors, right? So full-time maintainers, that's the way to go. Now, to have a full-time maintainer, somebody needs to pay those people, right? If they are not full-time maintainers, that means that they are working, they're doing their job somewhere, and occasionally, when they have time, they will maintain the project as well, right? And that does not work. On the long run, it never does. Because simply projects without dedication of some, not everyone, I'm not saying everybody should be dedicated maintainer or full-time maintainer, but without at least a number of dedicated full-time maintainers, projects always die. Unless they're very, very small. So this was to expect. Simply, I think that there were 2 people working on it every once in a while, and they just had to move somewhere else, move on, right? And that's normal. People, there are projects that I was involved in the past and I'm not involved anymore, right? But then there are other people who take over. But the real problem around Ingress Nginx, and this is, many of you are going to think that now I'm going too far, but the problem of Nginx is that it is an open source project that did not have commercial interest in any form of way, right? Now, I'm an open source person. I preach open source all the time, but for open source to be healthy, somebody needs to have some interest in it so that somebody pays a person or people to work on it. Like a good example is Kubernetes. There are not one, there are many companies with commercial interest in Kubernetes. And that's why that project is thriving. For Ingress Nginx, there was nobody. That's the real problem there, right? And those people simply, we cannot expect people to be there forever and ever. 2 people, two persons that were there, they couldn't dedicate their time to it anymore. And then nobody else wants to join, right? And that's how open source works. People think that open source project, there is a lot of contribution and stuff like that, but that's not true. Most of the contributions to open source projects come from people paid to work on those open source projects. We all hope, and I'm behind some open source projects, we all hope that contributions would skyrocket, but that's not really happening, right? Because simply people want to use open source. They don't want to work on open source. They just want to use it. They want to take it. They don't give much back. That's what happened. I don't think that there was anything, anybody forced anybody. It simply happened that those people didn't want to do it anymore. And they haven't been doing it much for a while now, and now it's closed. If anybody volunteered to jump in and say, I'm going to dedicate 2 days a week to the project, they would not close it, but nobody did that. And going back to the first question, how do you expect the Ingress Nginx retirement will shape Kubernetes networking ecosystem? I don't think that much will happen, to be honest. People will move to other Ingress solutions, or they will move, and I hope that that's what you will do, to Gateway API or API Gateway, whichever of the 2 names it is. Because it's opportunity, right? Nginx, the only reason why we still have Ingress is because people were too lazy to move to Gateway API. And now you have to invest into it. So, and I don't think much will happen. Simply, projects evolve and some projects die. That's how open source works, and even commercial. From Luther, anything interesting KubeCon that seemed like a new trend or an area of watch? Do you think companies are now figuring out legit use cases for AI in Kubernetes? So I haven't seen anything truly interesting. There is no wow factor. And I would say that I haven't seen wow for a while now. And I was answering that question earlier. And that's simply because the ecosystem is mostly mature, right? And most of the companies are trying to just kind of make it work. And to figure out commercial options on top of them, which is okay. Do you think the companies are now figuring out legit use cases for AI in Kubernetes? Yes, they're trying to figure out. I don't think that they did figure it out. The only thing I'm certain is, but this is not the legit use case for AI, but how do we run AI-related things? That's a huge focus from Kubernetes itself to others. How do we run models? How do we run inference? How do we run agents? It's mostly solved. And then everybody else is trying to figure out how to wrap their stuff into AI. I'm not very fond of wrapping. I think that when the next wave of innovation comes, in this case, that's AI, whether you like it or no, the winners are either big companies, like Microsoft and AWS, or smaller companies that start from scratch. Right? I rarely see, and I'm talking now historically, right? If you, in your head, try to go back in time, right? Whenever there was a new wave, the solutions that stick are solutions built from scratch. Now, because it's very hard to adapt your IP, whatever you had before, the box it was in it, to the new box, it's more productive to start from scratch. And that means that all those companies are struggling now. They have to have AI stories simply because they will not get funding. For next round of, most of those companies are VC backed. So they need next round of funding. So they need AI story because without it, they will not get funding. And they cannot abandon what they're doing because that's what gives them some profit, even though they're all generating losses. So they need to protect the little that they have, but at the same time, that means that they cannot dedicate themselves fully to the new story. And those are small companies, so small number of people, so nothing really exciting. I think that interesting stories are going to come outside of the KubeCon or CNCF circle. I mean, there will be few. I hope that my company will be one of the few, but only a few, right? From teacher Nikolov, are you planning to complete your book on Crossplane on Limpub? So actually the book was complete. I just never put it officially as 100% because I wanted to keep it smaller number just to be able to keep adding new features instead of creating new editions. And I now need to rewrite the whole book with V2, and I hope I will do that, but I cannot promise. My schedule is just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. But yeah, I hope to find time around Christmas period to rewrite it for V2, because that's the real thing missing over there, right? And I removed it from all the places where I have it, mainly because I feel it wouldn't be okay for me to give book that I don't believe is valid anymore. I mean, it still works, most likely. It's just that V2 changed a few things that are very, very important. I hope over the holidays. I cannot promise. Sorry for that. Just too many things on my plate. Anybody else? This is fun. I miss Scott though. Any of you coming to Amsterdam then? I mean, it's all still far off, but who knows? Anyways, I'm going to give you a minute or two in case any of you has any additional questions. If not, I get to finish earlier. which is not that bad. Let's see. Do I have some pressing? I don't. Anyways, so anybody else? Given once. The problem here is that I cannot count down because actually I receive comments with delay compared to when you're typing them, when you commit them or submit them. So I need to give some extra time. I'm going to count to 10. Given once, not 10, 3 times. Given once, given twice. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. See you all next week. Cheers, everyone.